It was like a chupacabra, Bigfoot sighting moment.
Yep, it is not fake news. There's a cat living there.
There's obstacles that's trying to cut your life short. He was just merely trying to survive.
To be where he belonged, but to feel like he shouldn't be there felt very relevant to me.
He deserves to be here more than any of us.
He lived in Hollywood, and I still believe that some of his spirit is there.
My name is Miguel Ordeñana. I'm co-senior manager of the Community Science Program at the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County. I am also a wildlife biologist, and I was fortunate enough to be part of the Griffith Park connectivity study that discovered P-22. Griffith Park is surrounded on all sides by freeways and urbanization, almost an island. So these wide-ranging animals like deer, bobcats, etc., we thought might have a hard time getting in and out of the park to get the resources that they needed to survive. I put these motion-activated cameras around the park to see if animals were able to get in and out. I never imagined seeing a mountain lion come across my screen. Biologists and everybody was like, it's impossible for that to ever happen. And in February of 2012, I saw this massive puma butt come across my computer screen. The most memorable butt photo I've ever seen. I needed to call somebody. I jumped out of my seat, started fumbling for my phone, couldn't find it. I ran barefoot 2 blocks to get to my phone, and I frantically called my now wife, left a voicemail, then the other biologists on the project. Nobody picked up. And I had this intense moment that I wanted to share with other people, and nobody was there immediately. All these things are rushing in my head. I was like excited, proud of this moment, but also worried because a mountain lion had just gotten killed in downtown Santa Monica just months before by Santa Monica police because they didn't know how to react. And I was wondering, is this mountain lion gonna get trapped in this backyard? And once I share this with the world, what's gonna happen to this poor individual? People started calling back, send me the photo. So I sent the photo. It was a mountain lion. There's no doubt about it. And then 3 weeks later, the National Park Service came out, captured this individual, and put a GPS tracking device and gave it its name, P-22, the 22nd puma studied in the local area by the National Park Service.
Pull tight top of the scapula there, right where your finger is.
So it's like...
P-22 story really took off when this famous photo of him in front of the Hollywood sign appeared in National Geographic. And the Park Service was actually contacted by this photographer named Steve Winter well before P-22 was in Griffith Park or we knew he existed. It took him about 14 months to get this shot. And it's because P-22 did not like to be in really active areas. But eventually he would cross paths with that camera because he had to use every inch of this park. This photo represents this juxtaposition of nature and urbanization.
My journey began with P-22 like most people. It was a headline in the LA Times. Mountain lion makes a home in Griffith Park. I couldn't quite believe it. There's a mountain lion living in Los Angeles? I had spent time protecting wildlife in places like Yellowstone and Yosemite. Very remote, the preconception of where wildlife should be. I had not really been to LA much. We're walking around Griffith Park and I'm envisioning this cat making it here. There's a merry-go-round, people playing golf, people walking their dogs, a little mini train. I just remember being transformed. It was one of those life-changing epiphanies. Well, wait a minute. He deserves to be here more than any of us. So how do we help him stay? P-22 grew up in the central Santa Monica Mountains, and we know that because of the National Park Service study in matching his genetics. But when P-22 came of age, like any mountain lion, they have to find their own territory. They are solitary creatures. And their territories are enormous. They're 100, 150 square miles.
Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area is about 200 square miles. For a lot of mountain lions to be packed into that one space that's bounded by the ocean onto the south and the 101 on the north creates this really unsustainable situation. And they feel this sense of hyper-territoriality that's not natural, to the point where they're killing each other over space. Males and females are getting killed by these territorial males, dispersing young males that are just leaving mom at 1.5 years, 2 years old, aren't able to cross the freeway and escape, and instead are getting killed by the cars on the freeway. On top of all this killing, there's a lot of inbreeding that's happening as well. These individuals are forced to mate with their own offspring, their own grand kittens. That's now showing its impact, because these animals are now being born with kinked tails and testicles that aren't fully descending. Reproduction isn't going to be successful in future generations if this keeps going.
P-22 was the living example of what a lack of connectivity did to this mountain lion population. Isolated from each other, isolated because of these freeways, the ability that they couldn't move to find mates, to find food, to find shelter, you name it. But at least he was a living one. Most of the males in the Santa Monica Mountains don't make it. And to me, this is the heartbreaking part of the story. I think we're over 30 in the National Park Service, almost 25-year study of mountain lions being hit in area roadways. These are magnificent, beautiful animals, and to see them mangled on the side of the road, it's heartbreaking. For me, this is what we have to fix. This is what indeed we can fix. We know wildlife crossings work.
The creation of a bridge or some sort of connector that allows these animals to more safely escape from each other and get across the 101 freeway.
Now, the Wallace-Annenberg Wildlife Crossing actually had been something that had been conceived of long before P-22. And the National Park Service researchers started ringing the alarm bell with the study that was showing these mountain lions were inbreeding themselves out of existence. Coincidentally, at about the same time, P-22 appears on the scene. I've retraced his route now on foot almost 20 times now. I don't know how I make it without not getting hit by a car, never mind how this cat made it. He hits the 405 and has to march through Beverly Hills and Bel Air. He has to cross 2 major freeways that I get afraid just driving on, never mind him having to traverse them on foot, to make his way to Griffith Park, which is this kind of isolated island of habitat, 8 square miles. And I'm sure once he got there, he was like, I ain't trying that again. You know what? Plenty of deer, no other male mountain lion that I can find. I'm done. And it was that kind of hero's journey, I think, is what endeared him to people all over the world. We can coexist with large predators, even in these urban spaces. It didn't mean, though, life was easy for him. He was in a highly peopled landscape, which he had to adapt to. It wasn't the easiest of existences for him. But perhaps a challenge that was just as potentially deadly as cars was rat poison. Rat poison is one of the most insidious threats to wildlife. Predators who dine on animals that are exposed to rat poison can be particularly vulnerable, because these poisons are what we call a bioaccumulator. They go up in concentration as they go up the food chain. It's a terrible death for wildlife. P-22, I think it was 2015, started showing up on the trail cameras not looking like a handsome cat. He could have died if he wasn't treated. Good news is that photo of P-22 looking sick really influenced people to reconsider these rat poisons and inspired Governor Newsom to sign a bill to start eliminating and banning them.
My name is Warren Dickson. I'm the co-owner of Third Rock Hip Hop, an environmental education company for children. I was riding around with Beth Pratt. I went inside one of the fundraisers with her, and that's when I started to learn more about, just what they were doing when it came to mountain lions in general. I'm listening to them talk about mountain lions, and the architect on the project, he taps me. I know why this lady is doing this talk because a mountain lion ate her goat. And she was like, if a mountain lion is attacking our pets, what can we do to protect the mountain lion? I said, man, you white people are crazy. I actually got a chance to see for the first time was what empathy really looked like. The more I learned, the more I started to see correlations between P-22's story and my story. And not just my story, but people's stories that's in my community where I come from. I said, see, black people just want you to love them like you love mountain lions. That's it. When you really learn about his story, it's just cat trying to survive, really. When you're trying to survive, you know, you need that space and you need to be able to explore. But there's obstacles that's trying to cut your life short while you're doing that. And for him, it was the road systems that was putting their lives at risk. That right there is something that we face every day in communities like where I'm from.
P-22 sadly passed away in December 2022. And what led up to that moment was his health declining as an older cat. It was time to try and capture this individual. His behavior was changing in another way, which was because he was suffering from poor health, he wasn't able to catch the deer that he used to catch. So he started going deeper within LA's urban core to find easier wildlife to catch and hunt. So that includes raccoons, cats maybe, but also eventually a couple small dogs. That obviously creates conflict with people. So it was kind of a race against time for the CDFW and MPS to capture him. Before they were able to capture him, he was unfortunately hit by a car. California Department of Fish and Wildlife and National Park Service, they came out and they saw that he had these catastrophic injuries. It was determined after evaluations that he had so much going on with him internally. So they did the humane thing and they euthanized him.
Welcome to my land, Netwanyane Samantha Morales Johnson Yang. For P-22 to be where he belonged, but to feel like he shouldn't be there felt very relevant to me. When I heard about his eventual passing, the Natural History Museum reached out. We want to do this in a good way. We were like, really? It was a really wonderful collaboration. We buried him in this bundle of red cloth. One of the elders from the Tataviam tribe had a little yearling oak, and we found a really private location. We held a ceremony and we buried him under that oak so that way he would never be disturbed.
As far as like a piece of Hollywood coming with him, I was able to arrange a boulder from Griffith Park to be transported over.
He's only known by a very few handful, and we'll be keeping it that way. But everyone knows that he lived in Hollywood, and I still believe that some of his spirit is there.
He represented hope when he made it past those obstacles. Because P-22 made it, it inspired people to try to find a better way.
The beautiful part of Tukuro Muehe, P-22's story, is that everyone has a different angle that they relate to him with.
I was able to photograph him for over a decade. My perspective on LA nature evolved through the process. To know about your natural surroundings, know that there's wildlife everywhere. Everywhere is an ecosystem.
The crossing itself was an idea before P-22, but it became a reality because of him. Look at how he inspired people all over the globe to do better and to do better for wildlife. That's his legacy.